Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Said, how are you doing? He said, well, I don't know. I think this medicine might be making me feel bad. A few more. And there goes that happy ending. Willie Nelson has always seemed like nothing could hurt him. The wise grandfather of country music. The calm rebel who went through problems, heartbreak, and many years of being famous with a guitar in his hands and peace in his heart. He smoked with presidents, played music with rock stars, and forgave almost everyone who hurt him, or so we thought. But behind the bandanas, the laughing, and the cloud of smoke, there's a side of Willie most fans have never seen. A side that remembers every mean thing, every betrayal, every artist who crossed a line they couldn't take back. Now at 92, with nothing left to prove and no one left to make happy, Willie's finally telling the truth about the music partners who turned their backs on him. About the show-biz big shots who sold out the heart of country music, and about the friendships that ended not with a fight but with silence. Some of these names are legends in their own right. A few were once his best friends and one or two you won't believe he ever hated them. But once you hear the stories behind the names, you'll understand exactly why Willie Nelson ever looked back. Toby Keith, the patriot that went too far. To the outside world, Willie Nelson and Toby Keith looked like natural friends, two country giants with strong opinions and bigger audiences. But behind the scenes, things were anything but friendly. Willie didn't hate Toby for his voice or his success. He hated what Toby stood for and how loudly he shouted it. The breaking point came after a charity concert in the early 2000s. Willie had signed on thinking it was about helping veterans and bringing people together. But when Toby took the stage, waving flags and turning the show into what Willie called a political rally in disguise, everything changed. Backstage, he confronted him. This isn't about right or left, he reportedly told Toby. It's about the music bringing people together. Toby shrugged it off. Willie didn't. He started pulling out of any event where Toby was on the bill, quietly but on purpose. In private, he called Toby's music a commercial wrapped in army clothes. He believed it made the pain of the people it claimed to honor seem cheap. And perhaps worst of all, he hated the pride. The idea that love of country belonged to just one voice. Years later, Toby tried to fix things, sending a message through a mutual friend. Willie never responded. From that moment on, he refused any joint appearances or working together. When asked later if he'd ever work with Toby again, he just said, "There's enough noise in the world already. I don't need to add to it." But this fight wasn't about politics alone. The next name on Willie's list, that one cut far deeper because it came from a man he once called a brother. Merle Haggard, brotherhood broken. They were the kings of outlaw country. Two legends who made their own path through the polished halls of Nashville. Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard weren't just music partners. They were brothers in rebellion. But sometimes even brothers turn into strangers. And what ended their bond wasn't a headline-worthy blowout. It was something far quieter and far more personal. For years, they toured, recorded, and stood shoulder to shoulder as symbols of fighting back. But behind the scenes, tension grew. Merle, always the old-school guy, started making fun of Willie's growing public support for marijuana legalization. At first, Willie laughed it off, but then Merle took it to the stage, slipping in mean remarks during shows, calling weed a lazy man's crutch, while Willie sat just a few feet away. It wasn't just a joke. It was a line in the sand. And Willie, who built a movement around peace, didn't take kindly to being made fun of by someone he once considered family. The final straw came during a radio interview in the late 2000s when Merle casually said Willie was more of a mascot now than a musician. Willie never responded publicly, but those close to him say he quietly cut all ties, canceling a planned joint album and removing Merle's name from future festival invites. To Willie, loyalty meant everything, and when Merle crossed that unspoken line, there was no going back. But the next fight wasn't rooted in history. It was a modern disaster with a rock star who brought way too much chaos into Willie's world and left behind nothing but smoke. Kid Rock too wild for Willie. Willie Nelson's lived through bar fights, backstage craziness, and decades off touring, but even he wasn't prepared for the whirlwind that was Kid Rock. At first, it seemed like a bold crossover, the redneck rocker teaming up with the outlaw legend. But what started as an unexpected pairing quickly fell apart into one of Willie's most regrettable music partnerships. They met during a charity event in Nashville where Kid Rock pitched an idea for a Southern rebellion anthem, something rough, loud, and genre mixing. Willie, always open to trying new things, agreed to a studio session. But once inside, he was met with what he later described as noise and ego. Kid Rock showed up late, blasted music over Willie's vocals, and treated the session like a frat party instead of a creative space. Willie tried to bring it back to the music, suggesting changes and tone shifts. Kid laughed him off, saying, "Just let it be raw, man." But to Willie, raw didn't mean disrespectful. It meant real. And what he saw in that studio wasn't real at all. It was performance. It was chaos. By the end of the day, Willie walked out without saying a word. The track was shelved. When asked about the session months later, he simply said, "Some fires are better left unlit." And just when he thought he'd seen the worst of creative clashes, the next name would blindside him because it came from someone who once called him brother, someone from the inside. Waylon Jennings, the outlaw falling out. They were the heart of outlaw country, the untouchable duo who rewrote the rules and flipped Nashville on its head. Willie and Waylon were more than bandmates. They were a movement. But even revolutions have cracks. And for Willie, nothing hurt more than watching his bond with Waylon slowly break under the weight of pride, pressure, and power. At first, it was creative tension. Waylon liked structure. Willie thrived in chaos. In the studio, Waylon would grow frustrated with Willie's laid-back style, missing takes, making up lyrics, refusing to practice. "You're too stoned to play straight," Waylon once snapped during a recording session. Willie laughed it off, but he didn't forget. As their fame grew, so did the crack. Waylon felt Willie was drifting too far into his own world, working with other artists, leaning into activism, and worst of all, stealing the spotlight. Friends say Waylon accused him of abandoning their outlaw roots in favor of becoming a symbol, a brand. The final blow came during a joint interview when Waylon jokingly called Willie a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. Willie smiled, but his eyes didn't. After that, they drifted apart. No blow-up, no statement, just a long, uncomfortable silence between two men who once trusted each other with everything. But Willie's next fight wasn't built on silence. It was sparked by glitter, glam, and a pop country star who made Willie question whether country music still had a soul. Shania Twain. Too much shine, not enough soul. Willie Nelson doesn't hate pop music. He just hates when country forgets what it's supposed to be. And to him, no one showed that shift more than Shania Twain. She wasn't just breaking records, she was breaking tradition. And for Willie, that was unforgivable. At first, he admired her talent. There's no denying Shania could sing. But as her fame exploded, Willie started to see something he didn't like. The sparkle, the choreography, the crossover hits made for radio perfection. He once remarked, "It felt more like Vegas than Nashville." The tension boiled over a town award show where the two were seated just a few rows apart. Shania won Entertainer of the Year. Willie clapped politely but later told a close friend, "Entertainer? Maybe, but that ain't country." He felt her music was polished to the point of emptiness. All glitter, no grit. They crossed paths backstage that night. Shania smiled, extended her hand. Willie nodded, but never stopped walking. That cold moment, brief as it was, said everything. He never criticized her in interviews, but had never mentioned her again either. And while that fight was born of disappointment, the next one came from pure heartbreak. A friendship shattered by one careless comment Willie never saw coming. Chris Christopherson, the words that never healed. If there was anyone Willie Nelson trusted with his truth, it was Chris Christopherson. They came up together, played the same dusty stages, wrote anthems that defined a generation. They shared smoke stories and a vision for what country music could be. But one moment, one careless remark turned decades of friendship into quiet resentment. It happened during a political fundraiser where both men had been invited to perform. Willie, known for his activism, had spoken out on issues close to his heart. From farm workers to marijuana reform. Backstage in front of a small group of artists and reporters, Chris muttered, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician. It was supposed to be a joke." Willie didn't laugh. That single sentence cut deeper than any review or headline ever could. To be dismissed by a stranger is one thing. To be put down by a brother, that stings forever. Willie never confronted him directly, but from that day forward, things changed. No more duets, no more shared sets, no more long phone calls swapping lyrics and memories, just distance. And while Chris may have forgotten that moment, Willie never did. "You don't always bury the hatchet," he once said. "Sometimes you hang it on the wall to remember." But the final name on his list, that one was different. It wasn't built on friendship, rivalry, or betrayal. It was about integrity, and Willie always believed was selling astery he never lived. Garth Brooks, the showman. Willie never trusted. To most of the world, Garth Brooks is a country legend, a record-breaking arena-filling superstar with a megawatt smile and a catalog of hits. But to Willie Nelson, he was something else entirely. A polished product packaged by Nashville, designed for mass appeal and, in Willie's eyes, disconnected from the dirt, pain, and grit that gave country music its soul. They shared stages more than once, but Willie always kept his distance. He watched Garth from the wings, noting every firework cue, every rehearsed emotional moment, every perfectly placed tear. It wasn't the performance that bothered him, it was the intent. "You can't sell struggle if you've never lived it," Willie once muttered after a show. The tipping point came during a tribute concert where Garth was chosen to perform one of Willie's own songs. He delivered it with flair, big vocals, and roaring applause. But when he walked off stage and gave Willie a scripted compliment, Willie reportedly turned and said, "Next time, sing it like it meant something." From then on, Willie quietly distanced himself from anything Garth-related. No duets, no co-appearances, not even a name drop. Because to Willie, the soul of country wasn't in the lights. It was in the scars. And while he rarely spoke these grudges out loud, at 92 he's no longer interested in playing nice, because for Willie Nelson, the truth has always sounded better than silence. Willie Nelson has spent his life floating above the noise, the calm outlaw, with nothing to prove and no one left to impress. But even legends have limits. And after decades in the industry, he's finally shedding light on the names he never forgot. Not because of what they accomplished, but because of what they represented. Toby Keith, Merle Haggard, Kid Rock, Waylon Jennings, Shania Twain, Chris Christopherson, and Garth Brooks. 7 names, 7 stories, 7 reminders that even a man built on peace isn't immune to pride, betrayal, or disappointment. These fights weren't all explosive. Some were whispered, others ended in silence. But for Willie, they each left a scar, a lesson, a line that couldn't be uncrossed. He didn't hold these grudges out of spite. He held them out of principle. Because to him, music was never just a business. It was a way of life. And if someone disrespected that life, even once, they weren't welcome back. In the end, Willie Nelson didn't just sing about truth, he lived it. And at 92, he's still reminding the world that authenticity matters more than applause. So now, Weeskew, which of these names shocked you the most? And do you think Willie was right to walk away from them? Let us know in the comments. Hit that like button if you want more untold stories, and don't forget to subscribe, because some legends still have a few secrets left to tell.